Good day, everyone. My name is Michael Westgate. I'm a postdoctoral research fellow at Wits University. And what I'll be showing today is a new technique that we've been implementing to look ahead of the mining phase. It is a project known as the Advanced Ore Body Knowledge Project, and it was the brainchild of the Mandela Mining Precinct. So just a bit of background of the project. It was established by Mandela Mining Precinct, and it was commissioned to both the CSIR and the Wits Seismic Research Center. You can see a little bit of information on the right there with the Mandela Mining Precinct page, and at the bottom there you can see that there was an article written about this research on the phys.org website, which was quite a proud achievement of ours. Just a little bit of background for the Seismic Research Center. It was established in 2015 by Professor Musa Manzi. Since then, it has produced over 10 MSc students, as well as 5 PhD graduates, and has published over 30 papers in internationally reputable journals. There are various themes that we look at the Seismic Research Center, mostly focused around seismic imaging. But we also look at interpretation and borehole integration and logging, as well as integration of various data sets that are non-seismic, such as gravity, magnetics, and various geological mapping. So the aim of the AOK project can be stated in a question, and that is, how can we exploit the existing mine structure using seismics to see ahead of the mining phase during development and expansion? And we broke this down into several deliverables that you can see at the bottom there. And currently we have collected the data, we have done our desktop studies, and we are working on the data processing and results. So just a brief overview of how the seismic method works. What we do is we take out our equipment to the field, and it is comprised of two parts. We have the source mechanism, which is on the left there, represented as a truck, which has a weight, and the receivers on the right there that are linked to a central node system. And basically what we do is we hit the ground with this weight, and it produces seismic waves that bounce off the various boundaries of the underlying rocks, and we collect the signals at the receivers, and then we process that data to get a rough image of the subsurface, like the one that you see there. We then take that image and infer the geology from that image. And this comprises the three basic steps of seismic imaging: the acquisition, the processing, and the interpretation. So just a brief background of one of the test sites that we worked on. I'm sure most people know about the Bushveld Igneous Complex. It hosts 90% of the world's platinum group metals. It is known as the largest igneous layered intrusion, and it has an expanse of 65,000 square kilometers. You can see our study area was at a platinum mine, denoted by the star there at the bottom left of the diagram. Our targets were the Merensky Reef and the UG2 horizons, which you can see at the bottom right. So here's a scheme of the platinum mine that we were at. This is both the mine plan on the left and the satellite image on the right. We conducted two types of surveys. There were surface surveys and tunnel surveys. The surface surveys had 3 test sites that we were working at, and we also had 3 broadband stations installed that are used for earthquake detection, and we wanted to incorporate them into the survey. Then at the bottom you can see the tunnel surveys. We have overlaid the mine plans at the level we were working at on top of the satellite image at the bottom right. And we have circled our area of investigation, so you can see that there's an overlap. So for the surface surveys, the equipment that we used are our conventional geophones, which you can see in the top left image. It consists of 2 parts. There's the geophone on the right that picks up the vibrations, and the node on the left that stores the data. Then we also used a land streamer, which is shown at the top right. and that allows quick acquisition because the streamer just gets dragged along the surface. And then the broadband station at the bottom right that I mentioned earlier. For the seismic source, we used what is shown on the bottom left there, a weight drop, which is mounted on the back of a vehicle. And basically, it's a motor that lifts this 42 kilogram weight and drops it onto the ground to create the seismic source. And that is accelerated with some elastic bands. Also on the surface, we used a whole bunch of passive seismic nodes. And the objective there is to harness the ambient seismic energy to image the subsurface. And what I've highlighted in this figure in red are all the active zones within the mine during our study. And it's a relatively new method that we're incorporating where we take the ambient energy and use that to image the subsurface rocks. Moving on to the tunnel surveys, we used the same equipment underground. For the source, we used a weight drop which was mounted on a trolley, as well as a 8 kilogram hammer, a sledgehammer. And then we used the different geophones that we planted into the base of the tunnel, and we also mounted them onto the pillar, the mine pillar shown there at the bottom, known as Michelle's pillar, named after our program director. There were various objectives for the different underground tunnel surveys, and they are displayed on the left there, and their geometry is shown at the bottom right there, overlaid on the mine plans. So for line 1, we were targeting the Merensky and the UG2, specifically looking at their dip. And lines 2 to 4 were all conducted around Michelle's pillar, and the main objective there was to quantify the stress that this pillar experienced. Lines 5 to 7 were acquired along the incline, back to back, as you can see in the diagram. And their objective were also to map the Merensky and the UG2, but specifically to look at structural controls such as faults and dikes that run through that area. So here are some preliminary results. We are still processing the data, and there's quite a lot going on in this figure, but what I want to draw your attention to are the red arrows that highlight the signals that we're looking for, and those are these coherent, almost horizontal signals, and it's our job to bring those signals out to enhance them and to reduce the noise that surrounds them, as well as the other various signals that are shown there. So because I wasn't able to show the final results, I thought it'd be a good idea to show results of a similar survey that was conducted in Portugal at the Neves Corvo mine by some colleagues at Uppsala University. You can see in the diagram that they had 2 profiles on the surface, as well as various seismic profiles in the tunnel that are shown in pink there. The red shows the target ore body, which they named the Lombador ore body. And here are some of the results. So for one of the surface surveys for profile 6, what they were able to show was that the Lombador ore body actually extends deeper than what was originally thought. And you can see that in the reflections in the diagram there. And those get truncated by a fault that's further down the line. What they also did was construct this velocity model by using seismic sources in the tunnels and receivers on the surface to get an idea of what speed the seismic waves travel at in the intermediate rock. This is very useful for a seismologist for processing and for understanding the overlying rock of the ore body. So in conclusion, just to take us back to our aim, we used seismics to answer the question of how can we look ahead of this phase. And while the data is still being processed, it is looking promising. It is composed of 2 parts. There's the surface surveys, which we intend to use to update the existing geological model of the mine. And then the tunnel surveys, which allowed us to get closer to the ore bodies, which will thus produce a stronger signal and a better image of the ore bodies and finer detail. And that basically summarizes the work we've been doing for the tunnel seismic profiling for the Advanced Ore Body Knowledge Program. The Seismic Research Center is funded by or supported by various groups in different capacities. So I'd like to thank all these groups for the funding that we receive, as well as the software donations and the collaboration. Thank you.